Welcome into the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky. How about this? Two-time Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, fellas.
Yes, sir.
Right up, Seth, take it away. How do you feel right now about them birds?
I'm trying to listen real, and you know, before the game even started, I made sure I got a Q-tip and I cleaned my ear out because I want to hear from not only all the Eagles haters, I want to hear from the Jalen Hurts Super Bowl winner, Super Bowl MVP haters. All of y'all that said that he couldn't do it, that he couldn't put the team on his back and get it done, shut the hell up. Oh!
All right, so Jalen Hurts just won a Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts is the MVP. But
Sorry, Ray.
Seth, I just have a question for you. Is Jalen Hurts the guy?
He's been the guy. He's been the guy. All he does is win. What's his record this year, Ray? Is that what, 18-3?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's absolutely crazy. Welcome in once again. We are here at Parx Casino, just 20 minutes north of Center City, Philadelphia, where I know there's a party going on around City Hall right now. Seth Joyner, Ray Didinger, of course, Derrick, Gunn. Ray, I'll ask you this question. I mean, I think I can't help. That was the greatest performance I've ever seen by a Philadelphia sports team. Both sides, offense, defense, an absolute drubbing. And when you also consider the fact this was an attempt at a three-peat that the Eagles stood in the way again of, this time not the Patriots but the Chiefs, a simply dominant performance.
Yeah, there's no other way to describe it. And I think it is fair to say, I guess I am the historian, so everybody turns to me for moments like this. I think this is the most impressive win by a Philadelphia team in any sport in a closeout situation. I mean, basketball, hockey, baseball, football, however you want to call it. And even if you go back, you know, with the Eagles back to the 1940s, I mean, they won back-to-back, but it was 7-0 and 14-0. It wasn't anything like this. I think this is the most dominant championship closeout game any Philadelphia sports team has ever done, and they do it as an underdog. They do it as an underdog against a team that's a two-time defending champion. I think we all said in the pregame that we thought the Eagles were going to win. I don't know that any of us thought they were going to win in this fashion, that they would have the game pretty much wrapped up by halftime, but they did. And, you know, this is a team that overcame a lot this year. When you consider how this year started, which, frankly, the year started under the cloud of how last year ended, with all the questions about, I mean, there were some questions about whether the coach was even going to be back, the basic foundation of the team, if it needed to be blown up and start over again, the massive changes that everybody wanted made. I give a lot of credit to the people at the top, starting with Jeff Lurie, that stayed the course with the coach, that stayed the course with the organization, let Howie Roseman build the team, rebuild the team, hired two very good coordinators that made a huge difference this year. And they took a team that looked like it was in absolute ruins at the end of last year and, frankly, didn't look all that good 4 games into this season. And once they righted the ship, there was just no stopping them. And today, there's no question that they were the better football team, and they are worthy world champions, and it's a great night for Philadelphia.
Derrick, Gunn, how far has this team come? We're talking about turnover issues from last year to this year. We're talking about whether or not Nick Sirianni is going to be the right guy to lead this team back to a Super Bowl, whether or not Jalen Hurts, again, in a serious note by a lot of people, asking still whether or not he was the guy after he already guided the team to a Super Bowl. You have the offseason that Howie Roseman was able to put together for this team. How impressed are you with the 2024, now 2025 Philadelphia Eagles?
When you think about the multitude of changes that were made, player personnel, coaching personnel, usually it takes a while for it to become a cohesive unit. When you think about all the darts thrown their way at the bye week, people wanted Nick Sirianni fired. People still questioning because of the turnovers. Jalen Hurts got overpaid. He shouldn't have been paid, so on and so forth. Then you had the minor distractions. A.J. Brown with the sideline antics, and, of course, him and Devontae making the off comments after a game about we need to throw the ball more. This team rallied around its own cause every day, every week. They did not let outside noise bother them in any way, shape, or form. Even when they had their differences of opinion, they talked it out. They kept moving forward. Every time we thought there was a certain team on their schedule that would be a significant problem to them, they handled those issues. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, so on and so forth. A lot of people thought Washington would give them a much better game. They put up 55 points. Come forward to today. A lot of people thought they didn't know if they could handle Patrick Mahomes in situations. They put up 40 points. all this team did was silence their doubters. Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, all of them. They just rallied around the cause. And that's the making of not just an immediate champion, but a foundation has been set for what anybody who comes in that locker room in the future. Look, you leave your outside individuality outside. When you come in here, we're about we. It's not me, it's about we. Now, the last time they won a Super Bowl, Jeffrey Lurie said this is the gold standard. I'm glad he didn't say that this time, but you can say that in-house. You see this trophy right here? You see these rings right here? This is our standard. It's a we, it's not me.
Mm-hmm. And it was also Doug Peterson on the Art Museum steps. We'll never forget it, talking about how this is going to be the new norm. Nick Sirianni has obviously taken that to another level with another Super Bowl appearance and now a Super Bowl victory. Seth, when you look back on this season, there were some moments there where there was a lot of doubt whether or not Jalen Hurts, and this is the one that cracks me up, and I know we talked about this on the show 2 weeks ago after they beat the Commanders in the NFC Championship game. But there was a conversation throughout this season about Jalen Hurts potentially costing the Eagles a Super Bowl, where he would be a detriment and not a benefit to the Philadelphia Eagles in a Super Bowl. Here he is, the MVP. Are we done with that?
You know, I just, for me, it's one of those situations where, you know, you have talking heads, and people get paid to be on TV to say what they got to say in their own media platform, whether it's YouTube or social media or whatever it is. They have their own platform, and they've got their opinions. But there's very few people that really understand the game of football, that really understand it. I'm not saying I'm some kind of genius, but I do understand the game in a way that the average person just doesn't. And when I said early in the year, as I began to watch this team grow and move in the direction that they were growing, the knock on Jalen is that, he's not throwing. He's not even throwing for 300 yards. He's throwing for like 120, 115. You know, he's not even throwing for 150 yards. But what people don't realize is that the Philadelphia Eagles were not asking Jalen to win the football game anymore. They were leaning on the strength of their offensive line, an explosive running back that they had, and a defense that was rounded into shape as one of the best defenses in the league. So Jalen didn't have to do it. It wasn't that he couldn't do it. It's not like it wasn't like we had witnessed him do it before. We watched him 2 years ago outperform the great Patrick Mahomes and wind up three points short. So we kind of got amnesia about how good this guy could really be. And when I talk about how important they are together, all you have to do is go back to week 16, and you can begin to see how important Jalen Hurts was to Saquon Barkley's success. And that's not to take anything away from Saquon. Phenomenal year, the best year in the history of a running back, period, okay? But he's important to it in the scheme of the offense that they run. And because they keyed so hard on Saquon today, it presented an opportunity for Jalen to step up. And for all those who said that he couldn't do it, that he would be the Achilles heel, that he would be the weak link that would break this team in this situation, what you hadn't looked at is the fact that every single time that this guy has been in a big game, he has come through. He has raised his level of competition. He's raised his level of production. He's simply gotten it done when it's a big game every single time. Every single time. A.J. Brown came out and said, passing. The next game he comes out against the Pittsburgh Steelers, throws the ball all over the map. 20 of 28, 270-something yards, 2 touchdown passes, 2 running touchdown passes, two running touchdowns, okay? When he's been asked to step up, he's been the guy to get it done. And you can't look at this new generation of running backs through the same lens that you used to look at not running backs, but quarterbacks. You can't look at them through the same lens that you used to, because this is the new age of quarterback. You're not going to see quarterbacks throw the ball for 300, 350 yards all the time, because there's a renaissance of the running game. And I think that we're going to see teams or copycats. We're going to see the NFL make a shift back to the running game and put these quarterbacks in a position, Ray, where they're only throwing the ball 20 to 30 times a game. Now, the interception rate is down. It's lower. You take less chances. You're going to see linebackers probably get bigger. Offensive linemen continue to be these mammoth, type players. But when we talk about Jalen Hurts now, his resume is somewhat complete, because of all the elite level quarterbacks. And guess what? He might not have elite level, arm strength. He might not, make the wild throws. He might not put the ball in harm's way to try to squeeze a ball in where it's not there. But he makes the prudent play. He makes the wise decision. He puts his team in the best position to win than just about any other quarterback in the National Football League. And nobody talks about that. They don't talk about when he steps up to the line of scrimmage and he sees something that's not right, how he gets him out of a bad play and puts him in the right play. They don't want to give him credit for that. But everybody else is a field general. Oh, Josh Allen's a field general. Oh, Patrick Mahomes is a field general. Joe Burrow is a field general. To a certain extent, Lamar Jackson is a field general. Put some respect on this kid's name for once, okay? I'm talking to all of y'all, ESPN, Fox Sports, FS1, CBS, and anybody else that's on YouTube, anywhere else. Put some respect on Jalen Hurts' name. He's earned it, okay? Stop with this nonsense and give him his due.
We will talk plenty about Jalen Hurts. I think that's every good point we could possibly make, but we're going to keep talking about Jalen Hurts, obviously, as the show goes on. I got to put the ball on the other side of the field for a second.
Because I told him so.
But I want to...
Gunn, I've been telling him so all year long.
Yes,
I've been telling the haters all year long.
Yes, you have.
Somebody going to listen, Ray.
Eventually. Hopefully now, after a Super Bowl MVP.
I can't wait to do my Conor McGregor walk-up JFK Boulevard.
Your strut. Your
yes,
full
I am.
Strut, absolutely. But I do want to make sure that we give credit. I'm going to go to you first, Seth, and I want to go down the line here. Could you have had more of a perfect game plan for Vic Fangio today and what he was able to do against that Kansas City Chiefs offense? Because you're talking about 3.5 real complete quarters of just utter dominance by Vic Fangio in that defense.
Okay, I'm going to be quick because I've been talking too much. Listen, the one thing that shocked me, guys, Ray and D. Gunn, is the level of pressure they were able to put on Patrick Mahomes today.
Yes.
Now, we talked about Hassan Reddick being gone. We talked about BG being out. And then all of a sudden, Nolan Smith stepped up. Jalen Carter, we knew he was just going to be a beast from the time he got in the league. Today, Josh Sweat stepped up. It's just one of those situations where as much pressure as they put on Patrick Mahomes today, I have to go back and watch the All-22 because I want to see what those guys did on the back end.
That's the other part of it.
To keep him from being able to complete balls. I mean, it was just one play after another after another. They had 6 sacks, but it looked like they had 10. It was unreal.
We said in the pregame that the one Super Bowl that Patrick Mahomes lost was the one to Tampa. And it was the one game in which a defense actually was able to get consistent pressure on him. And they did in that game. They had 10 quarterback hits. They had 3 sacks. And they had 29 pressures in that game. That is still a Super Bowl record. Now, I don't know. The Eagles may have broken it today. But they had Patrick Mahomes on the run that entire game. And as great as he is, he can't perform up to that same level if he's got that same kind of pressure. The Eagles were able to do it today. The amazing thing is that they're able to do it with a 4-man rush. I mean, they were well into the second half with all kinds of pressure and all kinds of hits on the quarterback, and they hadn't sent a 5th rusher at all. I mean, they were able to get that out of the front 4. So tremendous credit to all of those guys. Williams played great. Sweat played. This might be the best game I ever saw Sweat play. I mean, he was tremendous.
Shot out of a cannon.
Williams was all over the field. Of course, Carter was really good. And, Nolan Smith to me was a real find this year. I mean, he was a first-round pick that hardly got to play and didn't contribute much last year. But, they paid a lot of money for Bryce Huff when he came in. And Nolan Smith gave you everything you could have hoped for from Bryce Huff. I mean, he all the stuff you paid Bryce Huff to do, Nolan Smith stepped up and did it for you anyway. And as a result, you had a front 4 that played really good football today and just completely took over the game. And, the one thing about the Chiefs this year, we were talking about how this Chiefs team was different than the team of 2 years ago and that they weren't quite as good. And one of the areas was in the offensive line. I mean, you saw Mahomes' stats this year did take a hit because he was sacked 36 times. There was an indication that if you got pressure, you could get pressure on him. And the Eagles demonstrated that today. When you saw it in the first quarter starting to appear, and the only question was, would they be able to sustain that for 4 quarters? But they did, and that was really the key to the game. Hurts was great, deserves the MVP, obviously. Some great plays by the offense. The offensive line played really well again. But to me, the mark of this game was the performance of this defense against obviously one of the best offenses that we've seen in this era. And tremendous credit to Vic Fangio.
And D Gunn, I tell you, it's you know, I say it all the time that pressure is every quarterback's kryptonite.
Yeah.
And I don't care who the quarterback is. Every quarterback likes to stand in that pocket and be pressure-free, tension-free. But there were situations today where Patrick Mahomes had a clean pocket and got happy feet and made terrible throws. I mean, it's amazing what early pressure will do. And maybe, just maybe, guys, I mean, let's consider this. Maybe all the pressure was really on Kansas City to three-peat. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, everybody talked about the Philadelphia Eagles and, you know, Jalen Hurts and, you know, the defense has played well, but can they stand up under this type of pressure? You know, maybe at the end of the day, maybe, just maybe, the pressure was on Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, and maybe they choked under the pressure today. Maybe the Eagles forced them to choke under the pressure.
You look at some of the throws that Mahomes threw behind his receivers. You look at some of the sure-handed receivers that had their drop passes today. Maybe the pressure got to him. Since the inception of the league revamping how the game should be played and making it more of an offensive-minded game, to be honest with you guys, I've never seen a complete NFL game where the defense didn't blitz at least once. This defense did not blitz one time the entire game against this Patrick Mahomes offense. These young, fast defensive players pinned their ears back and just kept coming after him, and they overpowered a pretty good doggone Kansas City offensive line. And they kept overpowering. They never let up when they had to. And you're right. Every time, early on, when Mahomes would step back, he looked like Sammy Davis Jr. back there tap dancing. I've never seen him so unsettled.
Yeah.
You know, he's only been blown out before this game. He's only been blown out playing games 3 times in his entire career. So think about the mindset that he must have had when he could hear feet coming after him the whole game. He's not used to that. Vic Fangio dialed up the perfect game plan. When you can get that kind of consistent pressure with the 4-man front, you're dropping 7 back in the coverage, there's not many lanes to throw to. That's why Mahomes standing back there patting the ball, because his timing was off. His passing timing was off. Guys he expected to be open and in certain spots weren't there, or there was somebody blanketing him, or he was so rushed he threw behind Cooper DeJean, pick, touchdown. I've never seen – this is one of the best defensive performances by an Eagles defense I've seen since I've been covering this team.
Just to put it in perspective, coming into this game, Mahomes had thrown 288 consecutive passes without an interception coming into this.
Wow.
And he threw 2 back-to-back in this game. That actually sort of changed the whole nature of the game. I mean, the Eagles scored, I think, 17 points in a matter of 6 minutes and basically put the game away right there. And the key to both of them were the 2 picks and the pressure that they brought on Patrick Mahomes, forcing him to make throws and make decisions that you ordinarily would never see Patrick Mahomes make.
Absolutely incredible.
I tell you what, D-Gun,
yeah.
Deontay Lewis said you owe Jake Elliott a damn apology.
But he said people in Jake. He didn't say me. But you know what? Jake, I'm going to tell you right, Jake, I apologize, man. I like so many. Hey, I don't know why you laughing, Marc. You didn't have faith in him either.
I'm laughing
up,
because
Marc.
that's the most Philadelphia thing. Just win the Super Bowl. You were wrong about the kicker.
Exactly.
You were wrong about the kicker.
I
Put some respect on the kicker's name.
I apologize, Jake. I doubted you. I didn't think you had it in you, but you came up in the biggest moment. We saw the video earlier today. You were out on the field 5 hours before kickoff, kicking from various spots on the field. That's a guy who wanted to be laser focused and wanted to make sure he was not the reason something would go wrong with this team. Jake, I sit here and on behalf of many people, including one of my colleagues, I'm not saying any name, I apologize, Jake, that I doubted you. Now, I didn't go so far as to say they need to get another kicker. I just said I had my doubts.
Oh, I'm going to make that guy apologize tomorrow morning.
I just said basically the kicker was in a slump and you got to do something to get him out of it. I never said you need another kicker, but I did have my doubts, Jake, especially from beyond 50 yards.
Calling you out for a kicker after a Super Bowl victory is why I love the city of Philadelphia. and then a guy in a Sean Andrews 73 jersey walking by just saying, "Go Birds, champions." Philadelphia, I can't love you more. I can't love you. I can't love life more than I do right now. Your Philadelphia Eagles are 2-time Super Bowl champions. Now, guess what? It keeps on getting better. We got a giveaway later in the show. We got a football, and we got a helmet that we're going to be giving away later on in the program, so make sure you guys are sticking around for that. Also coming up, we're going to talk about who was our player to bank on and our drive of the game. Later on, Bailey Livesey will join us to give us more of an update and a synopsis of what's going on in our chat throughout the evening. And we'll continue to talk about your Philadelphia Eagles winning Super Bowl 59 over Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, and the Kansas City Chiefs. That's when we return to the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky. betPARX, just 20 minutes north of Center City, Philadelphia, home to the pre- and postgame show all season long.
It's happening again. Those missed tackles are starting to stack up. Your friends pleading with players who can't hear them, sweating it out week after week. But not you. Why? Because whether they score or not, there's always another way to win on the betPARX app. New casino users score up to $1,000 bonus back in their first 24 hours.
Oof, stuck paying for that old phone? Don't be. You know, at Verizon, we'll pay off your phone, and you'll get iPhone 16 with Apple Intelligence on us. Now with Genmoji. That's a value of up to $1,600. Only on Verizon.
Most people don't know how to get the care they need. The experts at Stay at Home Care can help. Before choosing a caregiver or family member for your care, you need to apply for the home care program. The application process can be complicated. Stay at Home Care can help you navigate through every step. Once approved, your caregiver or family member will receive guaranteed weekly pay, a variety of medical benefits options, paid holidays, paid vacation, and overtime pay. Call Stay at Home Care, here to help every step of the way.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Parx Casino. Welcome back to the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky. Seth, Joyner, Derrick, Gunn, Ray Didinger with you. I'm Marc Farzetta on the heels of the Philadelphia Eagles taking it to the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59 by a score of 40-22. And it wasn't even that close, as I think most of you already know. Let's get to it when we talk about our player to bank on. We had talked about Saquon Barkley in the pregame show. We had talked about Jalen Hurts in the pregame show as well. And he, of course, as your MVP, is also your mid-pen bank player to bank on. Jalen Hurts today absolutely put the nail in the coffin there of the Kansas City Chiefs with a dynamite performance, 17-22. 221 yards, 3 touchdowns in total, 2 through the air with 1 interception, and then also 72 yards on the ground, including that rushing touchdown. I mean, Seth, you hit it out of the park talking about all the great things that he was able to do today. Clutch is really what comes up. We've talked about it throughout the season. There's no doubt that Saquon Barkley throughout the entire year was the star of the Eagles offense. Mm-hmm. But when push came to shove on 3rd and longs, 3rd and 5s, 4th and 4s, 4th and 5s, Jalen Hurts stepped up time and time again and made money throws when the team needed him to make money throws. He was full of them tonight.
Listen, it's by design because a lot of people thought that he was just being cocky when he said, "Oh, is this what y'all wanted to see?" That was the first one. And then the comment last week after the NFC Championship game, he said, "You know, Coach let me out of my straitjacket." That should be pretty telling to you exactly what the Philadelphia Eagles have asked Jalen to do since week 4. They asked him to be a game manager because they had to get the turnovers under control. He started off this year the same way he ended last year, turning the ball over. The first 2 series against Green Bay, first game of the season, he goes fumble, then he goes interception. In back-to-back series, defense stands up, 6 points on the board. So now, by the time you get to the bye week, the turnover thing is so detrimental to you winning. It is the number one precursor, the number one element that you should look at that determines wins and losses in the National Football League. The Eagles put him in a box, so to speak. He averaged 22 passes a game. since week 6 when they came back over the bye throughout the entire playoffs. He had 2 games. I don't know. Let me look at the numbers here. So he had 22 passes today. He had 28 passes last week. I mean, you tell me what other quarterback in the National Football League is throwing for that least amount of passes and still having success, because his percentage rate is so high, 17 for 22. He only missed 5 passes all game, 8 the last game. Hey, listen, man, we just need to accept the fact that the tide has turned a little bit. We got a quarterback that operates under different circumstances. We got a generational running back. And I know you guys don't like, this is the new normal. What was the other thing that the gold standard? I know you guys don't like that. But the truth of the matter is, man, when you look at how this team is constructed, they should be Super Bowl contenders at least the next 2 years, if not more.
Absolutely.
They got Saquon Barkley under contract for 2 more years. Jalen Hurts is in his franchise deal. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith just got re-upped this summer. Landon Dickerson just got re-upped this summer. Jordan Mailata just got re-upped this summer. Okay, the only question mark that we have on the offensive side of the ball, can we bring Mekhi Becton back? What are we going to do with Dallas Goedert? Other than that, there's no question as far as, and how long Lane Johnson is going to want to play. Those are the only questions that you have.
Well, he said he wants to play. He's told me a number of times he wants to play at least 2 more years. So you keep Lane Johnson, and I still think 2 years, Lane Johnson in 2 years from now, if not at that point considered the best right tackle in the game, he will still be considered, because of his technique and his knowledge, will still be one of the best right tackles in the National Football League, and that's not a bad thing to have at all.
Now, so jump over on the defensive side of the ball. I feel like Vic Fangio with this defense is probably a year ahead of schedule. They're only going to get better. Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell are only going to get better, okay? If they can sign Zach Bond back, he's only going to get better. Nolan Smith only going to get better. Jalen Carter only going to get better.
Don't forget Nakobe Dean.
Nakobe Dean's only going to get better.
Yeah.
And now you have a proven backup with Oren Burks if you so choose to sign him and bring him back as the 3rd linebacker. But you also got, young Trot.
Yeah.
This just going to get better. So when you throw all these elements together, I know we don't like to throw around all the gold standard, this is the new normal, but it could possibly be the gold standard and the new normal for the Philadelphia Eagles, at least for the next 2 years, right?
Yeah, I think there was I think what happened with the team was that they kind of had to change direction around, after week 4, week 5, after the ill-fated trip to Tampa Bay, and then the bye week there. I mean, they became a team out of necessity that nobody really saw coming, but they kind of had to do it. That was when the offensive line had the meeting with Nick Sirianni. He said, I think we really need to start running the ball more. We got a great back. We got a line that you can lean on. We can do this. And at that point, and from that point on, they really became far more of a running team and less of a passing team, which forced the quarterback and the receivers to adjust on a weekly basis. This wasn't the offense they signed up for, but it was the offense that they had to run to win games. And everybody kind of had to find their way while the season was going on. While you're playing games every week, they were kind of redefining themselves as this different kind of team, different from what they expected to be, and frankly, different than what you see around the NFL. Teams in the NFL today don't play the way the Eagles normally play, but they did, and it worked for them. So I give those guys credit that they kind of figured it out on the way. And the defense, there were some weeks when the offense didn't produce the way it should have, but the defense was good enough to keep them in it all the time, and they were able to keep winning. And that's what kind of happened. Talking about the decisions that are going to be made coming up next year, in light of this, and you guys were talking about some of it, but Howie Roseman's going to have to do some work this offseason because he's got some players that were really key contributors this year that he's going to have to figure out. Zach Bond, I mean, you got him as a bargain this year, but I don't see any way you can lose him. A lot of teams are going to want to sign him. He's going to get a lot of offers, but you saw how valuable he was this year. I mean, he was a legit all-pro player who made a ton of big plays for you week in and week out. You're going to have to find the money to pay him. Milton Williams, you saw today, is really coming on as a really good young defensive lineman. You can't let him walk. So, and now you're coming into the last year of Nick Sirianni's contract. You're going to have to sign him too. Now, these are all good decisions to make. These are, you can say these are a problem. Well, they're good problems to have because you have a lot of people now that have really performed and are really what you want to be part of your future. You just have to find the money to pay them.
Well, I think if Howie Roseman finds a way to bring back Zach Bond and Mekhi Becton in the same offseason, he's got the cheat codes. All right, he's got some kind of code that he has cracked years ago to keep everybody on this roster.
He's got him.
Well, you know what, though?
He's got him. I mean,
here's what he can never.
How can your quarterback? How can your quarterback going in the next year be the lowest cap hit of any quarterback in the National Football League? I mean, down in the 30 million range. Okay, so if he's there and he's the highest paid player on your payroll from a cap hit perspective, tell me what it is that Howie's doing. What kind of numbers, what kind of trigonometry is he using? What kind of algebra is he tapped into? What kind of extraterrestrial math is he using that everybody else can't see? Because guess what? Listen, I got to bring it up because it's the topic of conversation. Kellen Moore is considering taking the Saints' job. To me, that's the worst move he could possibly ever make. When you talk about the salary cap system, there are $84 million over the cap already. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have talent. And they're in salary cap purgatory. He's going to last 2 years, and his ass is going to get fired because he's not going to have enough time to build what he needs to build. But if he stays here, they can run it back, potentially get back to another Super Bowl. And if they have a third of the year that they had this year offensively, he'll be like Ben Johnson. He'll be like Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. Whatever job comes available, he'll have his pickup.
Yeah, but Seth, a lot of times coaches, you dangle that carrot, that green carrot in front of them. They can't say no in a lot of situations. And there's a definitive reason why the Saints have not announced who the new head coach. I think they've already made an agreement. I honestly do. And it's going to come out tomorrow that he's the head coach. You know what? My coach's mindset is I can go down there and I can have an impact and I can change things around if I bring the right staff. Maybe he can. But they don't have a Howie Roseman pulling the strings. You were talking about Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton, for what he did playing guard the first time of his career, he may take a cap-friendly hit for the Eagles. Go back to before the season began when he talked about how he had lost his love to play the game. He basically had believed in all the outside noise saying that he was a first-round bust. And what did he say shortly after training camp was over? You know what? It's a family here. I found a newfound zest to play this game. And we saw him after the game on the field crying.
Right.
I mean, think about that. Josh Sweat, he took a gamble on himself, signed a 1-year, $10 million deal. Now, Josh Sweat is going to get paid. But I think the Eagles are pretty good at the edge rushing situation. And if Howie Roseman being Howie, he's going to go out and get what he wants either in free agents or the draft. So, they can't sign everybody. When you think about it, Darius Slay said he wants to play one more year. I don't think Darius Slay is going to be back here in 2025. You got to free up some money somewhere to sign the people you want to sign, and it starts with Zach Bond.
I think Slay knows that he's not coming back next year. I think he's going to play somewhere else, but he's just not going to play in Philadelphia.
Right.
And the other thing you also have to factor in is who gets restructured.
Right.
And Jalen Hurts has to do nothing to prove to anyone that the main thing is the main thing no matter what. Whether that's money, whether that's passing yards, whatever. The man's going to get paid either way. I wouldn't be shocked if you saw a restructure there to keep this team together.
When it comes to offseason moves, I think the most intriguing offseason move beyond Zach Bond, what are you going to do with Huff? He was inactive for today's game. He was inactive because Brandon Graham was activated for today's game. What are you going to do? You going to eat that bullet and let him go?
You got to.
Okay, so
what is he going to give you?
Yeah.
Nothing.
No, what is he going to give you?
You got to eat the bullet.
Especially when you think about this is the most intriguing move of the offseason for me, because if Howie can figure out how to pull this one off, this changes everything.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
This changes everything. Go get Myles Garrett.
You're gonna pay Zach. You're gonna pay Zach Bond and Myles Garrett.
And listen, you got to do what you got to do. You go to your team, figure out how to restructure the guys that are way up here and bringing them down to a number that makes sense.
Yeah.
You got to go and get that guy, because if you put him with Jalen Carter,
absolutely,
it's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Yeah,
it's a wrap, man.
He's the best edge rusher in the game today. There's no question about that.
And let me go back to Kellen Moore, and I'm gonna say one thing, and I'm gonna leave it alone. An old coach used to tell me all the time, "Hey, all money ain't good money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You can go get 2 years worth of good money, and then they run your ass out of New Orleans, okay? Or you can stay here and potentially be right back in this position again next year, and then you're the cat's meow. You get to choose where you want to go. You get to choose what kind of cap situation fits you better. You get to choose the great, GM that you want to bring along with you. You get to choose your staff. That just makes more sense. Because if he takes this job for a guy his age, it might be 5, 6, 7 years before he gets another shot, D-Gun.
It's true. But you know what the money top coordinators make nowadays? Ain't bad money. Ain't like it used to be.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
If he got fired as a head coach, he'll get another job as a coordinator.
What I'm trying to tell you, if Jeffrey Lurie is true to his word that this is the gold standard, then guess what? If Kellen Moore made $2 million last year, give him 4 to keep him here.
Possibly. That money don't count on the cap.
Well, this certainly doesn't count against anything, and I'm glad this is a quick drive that we chose here because we're wrapping up this segment. Before we get out of here, though, we got to tell you about the drive of the game, the Davis Honda drive of the game. And fortunately, it was a real quick one. This came after Avonte Maddox was able to break. How about Avonte Maddox breaking up a 4th and 4 there from Patrick Mahomes and DeAndre Hopkins? Eagles get the ball back at the KC 46-yard line. Jalen Hurts says, hey, thanks for that. One play, 46 yards, 7 points, touchdown with the point after to put the Eagles up 34-0 on Kansas City there at the 2:40 mark of the third quarter. Not too shabby. And that one play amounted to our Davis Honda drive of the game. All right, when we come back, we're going to have a check-in in our social media director with our friend Bailey Livesey. She'll be dropping in. She's been monitoring the chat throughout the show. We'll get to your guys' questions and your topics in that chat when we return on the betPARX postgame show presented by Pond Lehocky. The 360 Lounge. Enjoy some great bands, great comedy, all-around fantastic entertainment, and ice-cold drinks here at Parx Casino.
At Pond Lehocky Giordano, we understand the impact an injury can have on your life. Our experienced attorneys have recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we know we can do the same for you. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family-owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging. Our core values drive everything we do. Come join our team.
This is Parx. Parx, Pennsylvania's #1 casino experience. This is how you win.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional-grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Pond Lehocky. Welcome back to the betPARX postgame show presented by Pond Lehocky. Marc, Farzetta, Seth, Joyner, Ray Didinger joining us here for a Super Bowl edition of the betPARX postgame show, and Derrick Gunn. Without further ado, let's check in on the chat with our social media coordinator, Bailey Livesey. She's been reading the chat throughout the show to this point. Bailey, what are the people talking about? Oh, first off, wait, look at that jacket. That's a fine jacket right there.
Go Birds.
And straight back. By the way, she was in New Orleans, partying it up nice down there, Bailey?
Yes, I was. Unfortunately, I had to leave right before all of the Philly fans came into New Orleans, but hey, I saw it. And Marc, I'm feeling ecstatic, and so is everybody else in the chat. The comment section is filled with questions, so for our first one, what was the turning point in the game where you felt like, hey, the Eagles have got this in the bag?
Turning point in the game. When did you feel like they got it?
DeJean's interception.
Good point.
The pick six, I felt that was it. It was a 10-0 game, and I thought the Eagles were playing great, and I felt pretty good about where it was. But the pick and the touchdown at that point, I thought that was the first point I thought they're going to win this game. I really felt it at that moment.
Mm-hmm. I would say that was great. Obviously, the pick six. When Bond picked it off and they were already in the red zone, I thought, wow, they're really going to do this. Because I felt at that point the Eagles were going to have the opportunity to then go in late in this game, and Patrick Mahomes, of all people, would not be able to catch up with them. And the Eagles, of course, cashed in on that as well. Any other turning points, gentlemen?
I have to go with the Cooper DeJean pick on his birthday as well. You know, that's just the icing on the cake. That's when but before that pick, you could just tell there was something different about the level of play from both teams, because Mahomes was uncomfortable right from the start. This defense pinned his ears back and just kept coming. And then, of course, Cooper DeJean's pick, I think, sealed it. That was the point for me. I'm thinking, this is the Eagles' night, plain and simple.
See, that was just a little too early for me in the game, because you got to consider, you're talking about Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
And how many games did he come back from? But after Bond's interception on Kansas City's last possession of the half,
right,
and then the 12-yard touchdown to A.J. Brown, I was looking at y'all like, what is going on here, man? Is this – am I really seeing this to go up 24-0 at halftime?
Yeah.
I mean, now you get to the point where it's like if they come out in the second half and they get a stop in the second half, the first series, they go 5 plays punt. They go 5 plays, 16 yards, turnover on downs. And the Eagles go field goal touchdown. Now you up 34-0. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So, I mean, it's just there's so much that's happening, but I think that touchdown right before the half, I started to feel like the way the defense was playing, that this game, that 24 points and then the 34 points was insurmountable. No matter what they did, they wasn't coming back.
Yeah, and Patrick Mahomes throughout this entire game you used the term happy feet. You just knew they were in his head. That's certainly what it felt like. Bailey, what else do you have for us?
Well, Seth, as often as you say that defense wins championships, as a former defensive player, how amazing was this defensive performance?
It was awesome. I was having a conversation with someone. I was down in New Orleans from Thursday until this morning. I flew back on the first flight this morning, and I was talking to somebody while I was there, and the conversation came up about, you guys' defense is the most, is the greatest defense the city has ever seen. And it came out of my mouth. That could be challenged, because if they win a Super Bowl, they will have done something that we didn't even come close to doing. So now that conversation begins to happen. Now, when you're talking about individual players, there's no comparison. But when you talk about defenses and how they will be remembered over time, you're certainly not thinking about Super Bowl 52 as a dominant defense. When Tom Brady throws for 505 yards, you kind of look at what Nick Foles and the offense actually did. But this win right here, good God. I mean, to do it to Patrick Mahomes, this guy's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. They made him look average at best.
I would say, referencing your defense, one of the things I was thinking about this weekend, about looking ahead to this game, and I thought to me, it was a real toss-up game. I didn't expect this. I really didn't. I thought the Eagles would win, but I didn't expect this. But one of the things that made me feel good was finding out that Eric Allen went in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remembered in Super Bowl 52 that was the weekend Brian Dawkins got told he was voted into the Hall of Fame. And I just thought that it seemed like just kind of a nice symmetry there, that the year that Brian Dawkins went in, the Eagles pulled off the big upset in the Super Bowl, and I had the same kind of feeling. Eric Allen goes in on Thursday night. This is the weekend that the Eagles are going to do.
this Super Bowl 59 had its own juju. You know that, right?
You like that number, do you?
That's my number. And then it's Saquon Barkley and Cooper DeJean's birthday on the 9th. Of February, and if you take their numbers and you add them up together, it adds up to 59. It just keeps going on and on and on.
Where do you come up with this stuff, man?
As Rocky would say, that's a good omen.
It's my job to come up with all the angles, D-Gun.
I hear you.
I will say this. Here's when I really felt good about this game. It's in our green room while we're watching it. I think they go up 24-0, and Ray Didinger looks at me and goes, Marc, is this really happening? And I was like, yes, Ray Didinger, it is happening. Bailey, one more from the good people. What do you got?
Yes, well, for the last question, I think we all thought that this was going to be a closer game. How amazing is it to beat the Chiefs?
I mean, you stomp out another opportunity for a three-peat. I mean, I don't think that should be lost on anybody. Zach Baun said it. I'll just say this. Zach Baun said it at his locker after the NFC Championship game when he was asked about going to the Super Bowl. How's it feel to go to the Super Bowl? And I echo his – this is exactly where the Eagles should be. That's what Zach Baun said. This is where we should be. And when you consider the offseason, you consider adding Saquon Barkley behind this offensive line. That should be illegal, but somehow Howie Roseman was able to make that happen. And all in the process, a division rival in the Giants is absolutely pantsed in front of the world because of all the behind-the-scenes footage on it. Then you see him go out there and dominate. You see Jalen Hurts go out there and absolutely play at an incredible level when he needed to, when that running game wasn't there. You see Vic Fangio come in here and be better than he was ever advertised. Zach Baun comes in here. He dominates. Everything came to fruition this season to the point that we're at now, which is a party on Broad Street, a parade on Broad Street, going back to the Art Museum steps, and now a second Super Bowl championship for this Philadelphia Eagles team. It couldn't be more picture perfect.
If you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. Mm-hmm. They beat the best. They beat the team that was back-to-back champions. They beat the team that had won 3 of the last 4 Super Bowls. They beat the best quarterback in the National Football League today. They beat a Kansas City team that was put on a pedestal, and rightfully so because of what they accomplished. And basically, this Eagles team tore that pedestal down on this day today, okay? So I'm shocked in the manner in which the game turned out, but I'm not shocked by the fact that the Eagles won because think about this. This team scored 95 points in its last 2 games. 95 points in its last 2 games, the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl. Keeping in mind, they have the youngest starting defense in the National Football League and yet the number 1 defense in the National Football League. And a quarterback that had been questioned and questioned time again, and all he goes out and does is continue to win. That's what makes this so impressive and so special.
Yeah, it was top to bottom, really. I mean, if you look at – I thought the third down was going to be key in this game. Was going to be, to me, that was going to be the big tell of this game. Was the Kansas City Chiefs this year – offensively, were the best third down offense that it was in the league. They converted 111 third downs to lead the entire league. And I felt like the Eagles were really good as a third down defense this year. They were. And I kind of thought that matchup of this Chief offense that's really good on third down versus the Eagles defense that's good in those situations was going to tell us a lot. Well, you saw how it went. The Chiefs didn't convert a single third down until the fourth quarter when the game was basically over. And the same thing with Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce comes into this game with the most receptions of any player postseason in the history of the NFL, more than Jerry Rice, more than anybody. He didn't have a catch till the fourth quarter when this game was over. So those 2 standards, which the Chiefs had, their ability on third down to convert for their offense and get the ball to their tight end in postseason situations, the Eagles took them both away to the extent that neither one of them were in play until the game was basically over. That's how thoroughly the Eagles dominated on defense today.
Well, the thing that I liked about it the most is the fact that, they challenged people today. There's been times like, in that second to last possession against the Rams, late against the Green Bay Packers when they had a little bit of a lead, Vic got a little complacent, a little passive. And the team ran down the field and scored, and now all of a sudden you got a game on your hand. We've been waiting for this football team all season long to play the perfect game. We found a way to win this game, and we scratched this one out, and we made the play here that we needed to win the game. But guess what? The last 2 weeks, those perfect games that we've been waiting for, they put them together, the most important 2 games of the season. They put a 50 spot on the Commanders. And, yeah, they turned the ball over 4 times, and they converted with points on all of those. But, man, the Kansas City Chiefs, when was the last time you seen somebody put 20, 40 points up on the Kansas City Chiefs and Spagnuolo's defense? It was a pleasure to watch him today, and it's respectful because I turned to Ray, and they ran a blitz one time, and Jalen beat it. And I was like, Ray, not today. Not today. No, Steve, you can take that crap with you somewhere else. But no, not today. Jalen's all over you today. You ain't fooling him one bit. One bit. The guy came off the edge. Jalen, right there where he came from, that's where he delivered the ball. So we've been waiting all season long. And I guess this is about as perfect as it gets because it's a total team effort, even the special teams. I mean, Jake Elliott played his behind off, made all his kicks. 48, let me see, 48.
48, 50.
48,
and 28.
50, and 28. Okay? The coverage teams played lights out. Lights out. You know, and that was a major concern because the coverage team is what really broke our backs in the game in the Super Bowl. In the Super Bowl 57, that punt return by Tony.
Tony's return.
Back to the 5-yard line. And then you get a complete domination on the defensive side of the ball against, you know, the premier quarterback in the National Football League. And offensively, we just got it done. I mean, this has got to be about as perfect of a finish as you could ever want to imagine for this team because they have been symbiotically playing together well and complementary football, you know, at the most critical time of the season. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've been waiting for this defense to crack. I'm like, how in the world can these young guys continue to play at this level week after week after week? Something's got to break. Something's got to falter. But guess what? They just kept getting better,
just got better
and better and better. And guess what? In my opinion, they're only scratching the surface. If you can keep this young core together, you know how dominant they can be.
I just want to add one thing before I totally forget. And look, this is a great night for Eagles fans. It's a great night for all of us, the city, and everybody on that organization. It was great. I have one thing that I would like to say as a thought going ahead to next year. I don't want to have Cooper DeJean returning punts anymore.
Oh, yes.
To me, that kid is too good. He's too valuable to your defense. I mean, he's already a really, really good player who's only going to get better. Let him play defense, okay? There are a lot of guys around that are professional kick returners. That's what they do, okay? And if you don't have one on your roster right now, this offseason, just go get somebody that can do that, that's been doing it. But I would hate to see a kid that has his kind of ability and his kind of future and a guy who could play a real key role in this defense moving forward get hurt returning punts. He's good at it. He's good at it, and I understand that the coaches like the fact he's sure-handed, and he actually gets pretty good yardage on returns. But to me, he's too valuable in the overall scheme of the defense to risk at that. So one off-season issue I would say is go get yourself a punt returner.
You don't want to see him become the next Covey?
No thanks.
I tell you one thing, though. The guys block for him a hell of a lot better than they do Covey. And my thing is, you know, we've seen this before, Ray, where, you know, you've got a good secondary guy that's a premier returner. But he doesn't return all the time. Mm-hmm. He returns in crunch time situations when, A, when you need to ensure that the ball is caught, and B, when you're really trying to make something happen. So every once in a while, I'm okay with it. But every single time that I watch him run up under a punt, man, I just cringe because I've been there before. I've been there. When I became a starter, I was still playing on all the special teams. And we must have been in my second year, and I was still on all the special teams. And I remember running down on kickoff one time, and I got banged up, and Buddy cussed out the entire coaching staff to get me off of all special teams. And I just sat over the sideline, and I smiled while I was hurting. But I'm serious. You know, you can't afford to have someone that valuable. You can't put him in harm's way like that. Because at some point in time, when you're playing against a team that you know, lives right there on the edge, they're going to take a shot and hurt one of the most important pieces you have on defense. He's irreplaceable, okay? A lot of guys stepped up today. Listen, Isaiah Rodgers played well. Avonte Maddox made some plays
Unbelievable.
Today. But there ain't nothing like Cooper DeJean in the slot. And his intelligence, his ability to communicate as he's moving across the formation and back and forth, it's just – see, there's just certain things, guys, that I look at and I pay attention to. It's stuff like that. Because you know how hard it is to get young players to open their mouth? They're afraid to communicate because they're not sure what the hell is going on and what everybody else is doing. But when you're communicating at the level that he is, that means that he knows what everybody else on the field is supposed to be doing because he's tapping the defensive end on the hip Well, how the hell he telling the defensive man, boy, you a rookie. You don't tap me and tell me what to do.
Yeah.
But he's trying to get him in the right spot.
Yeah.
So that tells me that he fully understands the defense, not just his job, but everybody else's job and how he fits into the big scheme of things.
Impressive in the form of Kansas City had one offensive play on the Eagles side of the field. Didn't have a second one until the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And you held the Kansas City Chiefs to 23 offensive yards for the first 30 minutes of football. 23 yards. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody in the Patrick Mahomes era hold him to 23 yards in 30 minutes of football. Are you kidding me? And like Seth was talking about, you got a bunch of young kids who continue to grow. The nucleus is incredible. And I can't wait to see what Howie does in terms of the offseason, not free agency, but in the draft, adding to that, because you're going to lose some pieces. You got to keep getting younger in this game. He's going to add some more pieces. I can't wait to see where they decide to add more pieces to this already young defense. And oh, by the way, we can't emphasize this enough, the youngest starting defense in the National Football League.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hey, it has been a wonderful season, obviously, with these gentlemen. Bailey Livesey, thank you so much for joining us throughout this year. All right, look, and you joining us, we're 1 for 1 in Super Bowls, so I'll see you next year, obviously.
Well, thank you guys so much. It's been a great season, and it's been a pleasure to be here. So
Thank
you.
It's been a pleasure having you. Bailey Livesey, our social media coordinator, been monitoring the chat throughout the entire season and updating us on everything that you guys have been talking about. We'll be back in a few. We'll talk to the good doctor. I think he's down in New Orleans. I know he was a roving reporter, so we might be talking to him coming up
He's
in
down
a
there.
minute.
He's down there. I've seen him.
You seen him down there?
I've seen him last night.
Okay. Fair enough. We'll talk to the good doc, hopefully, coming up in the next set. We'll see. He might be out enjoying the night and the festivities. We'll see. But when we come back, we'll also continue to focus on not just this Eagles defense, but also Vic Fangio in particular and a couple other guys that helped the Eagles get to this end game, Super Bowl champions over the Kansas City Chiefs. That's when we return to the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky. Hopefully you won yourself some money from the betPARX app and the betPARX Sportsbook here at Parx Casino. Enjoy it all in a lap of luxury and win yourself some cold, hard cash.
Oof, stuck paying for that old phone? Don't be. You know, at Verizon, we'll pay off your phone, and you'll get iPhone 16 with Apple Intelligence on us. Now with Genmoji. That's a value of up to $1,600. Only on Verizon.
On game day, it's the Eagles' job to protect this house.
But in here, this is our house.
So we drank our pickle juice, then wrote the playbook on injury law.
And created a winning culture that knows
hungry dogs run faster. And we always bring the pressure because that's the standard. And we don't win until you win.
Sell your car to us, no hassle, no fuss. DavisBuysCars.com.
Did you know that Davis Honda will pay top dollar for your car? Go to DavisBuysCars.com and get an instant quote on your vehicle. We'll make the purchase as easy as possible and put cash in your hand faster than you can say DavisBuysCars.com.
Sell your car to us, no hassle, no fuss. DavisBuysCars.com.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Verizon. Coming up in this segment here on the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky, we got a couple of giveaways. We want to award someone in our chat, so stay in that chat. Before we go any further, once again on the heels of a 40-22 Eagles victory over the Kansas City Chiefs to notch their second Super Bowl championship, We've talked about Jalen Hurts at length when you talk about the MVP of the Super Bowl. Saquon Barkley's contributions throughout the season. Saquon held to just 57 yards on the ground, but also had 40 yards through the air to help the efforts there of Jalen Hurts. But how about this? We've only touched on Devontae Smith. We've only touched on A.J. Brown, their performances throughout this season, but both coming away with touchdown receptions today. And there was a little, I think spat would be too dramatic a term, with A.J. Brown going on the sideline. Looked like there was a little miscommunication between he and Jalen Hurts on maybe a back shoulder throw or a go ball. Little conversation there with Nick Sirianni. Eagles get the ball back. I believe it was after the Zach Bond interception, and they cash it in for 6 to A.J. Brown. But those receivers, Johnny on the spot today.
And, yeah, you know, when you have those little blow-ups like that and you come back the next series and you throw, you know, a touchdown pass to your wide receiver, you know, all is forgiven.
Yeah, and we were talking about the fact that this offense kind of had to reinvent itself over the course of the season when they decided that running the football, playing behind the offensive line, and feeding Barkley was the way that they were going to get this season righted. Obviously, the quarterback and the receivers had to adjust from week to week, and it was not a smooth process. I mean, there were a couple of weeks in there where I think the receivers were troubled, and there were a couple of weeks in there where, frankly, the passing game did look out of sync. But they worked it out, and I think what they realized was that they had a real chance. I mean, you could just see by the week that the defense was legit. The defense was number one for a reason. The defense was going to be there every single week and giving them a chance. Barkley certainly was going to be the same. And the passing game just had to be good enough from week to week. And on occasions when they needed it to be, it was. And then you saw the last 2 weeks in a game against Washington, which a lot of people coming in, Seth not so much, but a lot of other people thought that this was going to be a tough game with Washington, and the Eagles blew them out 55 points. And then today, a game that I think a lot of us thought that they had a chance to win, but I don't think anybody thought they were going to score 40 and win it in the manner in which they did. But they did. I mean, this was a team that just got better. It's so interesting. Last year, this was a team that was 10-1 and completely collapsed in the second half of the year. This was a team that started slow and had everybody scratching their heads at the end of September, and then got better as the season went on and actually was playing their very best football when they got to the championship round.
It's interesting to bring that up because I know we talked about this in the pregame show, but one of the things that gave me so much confidence that the Eagles would win this game today was that the Kansas City Chiefs throughout the season very rarely dominated games. They won, I believe it was 3 games by 10 or more points. Most of those were one-possession, one-score games. That's exactly what the Eagles did a year ago when they were 10-1, and then obviously they had the epic collapse. I thought for the Eagles to really win this game, that epic collapse would have to be for the Kansas City Chiefs in this Super Bowl. And I thought the Eagles would have the best chance to do it considering they were the best team that the Kansas City Chiefs were going to play this season.
Yeah, but see, Mark, you know what? With this particular Kansas City Chiefs team was not the best offensive team they've sent to a Super Bowl, but what they were was a team that would find ways to win. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes the team even more dangerous. In the face of adversity, some teams, even good teams, will collapse and fold under pressure. This Kansas City team continuously found a way to right itself to get the all-important W, to put itself in a 17-2 position. But in this particular game, like I said a while ago, you could tell something right from the opening bat about this was just going to be the Eagles' day. They just say, you know what, we're here, just let it all hang out, you know. And I think they honestly rattled Kansas City early on in this game. Offensively, I think the way this Eagles defense played, because Mahomes had nowhere to throw the football, and the Eagles, I can't emphasize that enough. The Eagles did not blitz one play, dropped 7 men in coverage, and Mahomes, you saw him patting the ball, you saw him throwing off his foot, you saw, and on top of that, they took away his running lanes. You know, one of his patent signature moves is to step up in the middle and take off and run. They had somebody come up and meet him every time in the hole. He couldn't go anywhere. And I think that really got to them after that first quarter. We always say, oh, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, I can't wait to see what adjustments they're going to make. They cannot make an adjustment on this Eagles defense today.
All right, let me put this out. So their first 3 and out in the game came on their second possession for the Kansas City Chiefs. That third play, I think it was on that drive. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes drops back, and that's the first time you saw him look like he was about to let one rip, and then he surveyed the field, held on to it, patted the football, tried to adjust, tried to scramble. Nothing was there for the taking. The next possession, another 3 and out, but this was interesting. They're backed up deep in their own zone, and Patrick Mahomes to an open Travis Kelce throws it at his shoelaces. He had him open.
He
He
had
had
him
the throw.
Yeah.
But again, the happy feet, and I think, Seth, you were talking about it during the game. They got that clock speeding up in Patrick Mahomes' head today very early.
Well, I mean, that's always key with any quarterback. If you can speed up his clock, and I talk about that with pressure in blitzes. Well, this team was able to get there today without having to blitz. But anytime you speed up, when you speed up a quarterback's clock, you speed up his thinking, his processing, and his reaction, and you speed up his feet, which is most important, because nothing affects a quarterback's ability to be accurate with the football more than his feet. If he's not positioned properly to be able to step into a throw, then he will always be, a little bit off the mark, right or left, high or low. That's why you always hear these commentators and quarterback gurus talk about the quarterback's footwork. I want to go back to something that you said about, thinking about whether the Eagles could beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Because the reason why I said what I said about the Washington Commanders the week before is because Jalen gets knocked out in week 16. CJ gets ejected in week 16. The Commanders come back from behind and win the game late, okay? So then they march up here thinking in the NFC Championship that they're going to win when we're at full strength, and we were dominating that game down in Washington before those events happened. So I didn't see 55 points, but there wasn't a snowball's chance in hell they was walking up in the link and winning, the NFC Championship. So then last week I expressed my same confidence in this football team. And I said that, I think it was Monday, I was on WIP, and I said, I'm not worried about Patrick Mahomes. I said, I'm not worried about Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. And somebody said, oh, you should be. No, you shouldn't. And this is why, okay? For someone who is not an athlete or someone who hasn't played sports at the highest level, you don't understand the importance of confidence in what you do, okay? Now, I played against a lot of great players in my career before, and I could admire them for their greatness and what they do on the field. But there was never a point in time when I played against them that in my mind I thought that they were better than I was. Because now that puts me in a position where I am kind of idolizing them in a way where I'm not going after them in a manner in which, like, when I play against a tight end that was less than me, I talked to him, I jeered him all day long, I treated him like a rag doll, I took advantage of him at every point because I knew that I could dominate him. That's confidence, okay? So in order to be great at what you do, in order to win the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs, you have to have confidence. I can't look at and be and all over Patrick Mahomes, So and people got upset with me about it. And I'm like, listen, I'm not going to put on a uniform. I'm not going to play a single down next Sunday, on the 9th. Not a single down. But what I can do is I can express confidence in my team, and I can express, and I can send good energy and good vibes, but towards my team, because I feel like they play with that kind of a chip on their shoulder. They play with that kind of a confidence, You don't play the kind of game that you played today against Patrick Mahomes and the two-time defending world champion Kansas City Chiefs and think that he's some kind of god. He put his pants on the same way that you do. He bends his ass over to tie his cleats up the same way that you do. So you have that. Your mentality has to be that way. It has to be that way. And the only way that they could do what they did to the Kansas City Chiefs today is they believed before they even took the field that they can wipe the field's ass with Kansas City all day long and Patrick Mahomes. That's the only way that you do it. Only way. And I hate to be that graphic, but that's just what it is.
I think it illustrates the point.
Yeah.
I think it's very good. No, but in all seriousness, that's one of the things, to build on your point, I think that's one of the things that has made this Philadelphia Eagles team so special. Especially you're talking about the run game. Now, today it didn't really affect, but with everything else, you had to still account for Saquon Barkley.
No, it was effective. It
did its job.
Yeah, it was effective, even though he didn't rip off the big one. Mm-hmm. What did he end the day up with?
I think he still ended up with almost 100 yards total offense with his receiving.
If you combine the receiving yards, he was 94 yards.
Okay,
94 yards. Yeah.
But I'm just trying to figure out what he had total rushing.
There's no question.
57 rushing.
How 57?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, a lot of people would look at that because of what he's done in the past, and they would say, hey, guess what? Saquon had an off day. But what you have to understand, the Eagles ran the ball 45 times.
He had 25 carries.
25 carries. So what is he doing? He is setting the table for everything else.
Sure.
This is what I'm saying. When Jalen Hurts is in the game, okay, and there's a chance that he might pull the ball, he's setting the table for Saquon because that extra guy on the line of scrimmage has to be disciplined and stay home because he's afraid that Jalen may take it, tuck it, and run around the end. It works then in the inverse way. Okay? Because what did Jalen have? Jalen had 70-something yards rushing today. Why? Because they were keying on Saquon so much that when he decided to pull the ball or they ran those quarterback leads, there was always something there. When he pulled the ball down and nothing was available in the pass and he hit it up inside, there was something there. So you can understand how they play off of each other and how important they are to each other and how important they both are to the pass game when you put it all together.
When you talk about confidence, though, and this is one of the things I loved about the Eagles all season long, no matter who they face, whether it was the Ravens, whether it was supposed to be an early test with the Bengals when they were just starting their 10-game winning streak, no matter who it was, their attitude throughout the entire season was, well, yeah, you haven't done it against us. Number 1 rushing defense in the NFL, Baltimore Ravens, you haven't done it against us. And Saquon Barkley, this offensive line, and the Eagles offense as a whole just kept on pushing through the entire season. No matter who they played, you haven't done it against us. The Washington Commanders, you go on the road, you beat the Lions in their stadium, now you're coming to Philly. Guess what? You're not going to do it against us. This attitude of the Philadelphia Eagles has been remarkably impressive.
It starts with the coaching. It starts with the coordinators. And especially on the defensive side, when you have a plethora of young players like that, you have to instill a certain confidence in them. And then once they do it one time, their confidence grows. When they do it again, confidence grows. They do it again, confidence grows to the point they're no longer rookies anymore. See, they're proven players because they have X amount of games under their belts now. And so you saw that confidence continuously grow with the defensive side of the football. And for this nucleus to do what they did the last couple of games against very good offensive teams in Washington and Kansas City, my goodness, the bar that they've established and set for 2025 is incredible because now you got a bunch of young guys who are going to welcome in a new crop of young guys and say, hey, look, man, this is how we do things here. Get on board.
The speed and the physicality of this defense is really impressive. And we've talked a couple times here about the fact that this is, in fact, the youngest defense in the league, which is pretty impressive when you think you just won a Super Bowl, and these guys are only going to get better. But if you look back at the end of last year, how bad this defense was and how, I mean, by the end of the year, by the time they went through that losing streak and then went down to Tampa and barely even showed up for the playoff game, their secondary, their pass defense was the worst in the league. To go from that to this in 1 year is really remarkable. And the infusion of young players, how much faster they were and how much more physical they were, you saw that all the time. And that's what attributed to a lot of the takeaways. You got a lot of guys around the football, guys ripping at the football, punching at the football. The Eagles had 13 takeaways in 4 postseason games against really good competition, against the best teams in the league. You took it away 13 times in 4 games. That's the kind of defense they're building here. And as we've said a couple times, those guys are going to be back and are only going to be better next year. This team they're the world champions now, and you can rightfully say they have a very bright future.
All right, well, let's get to our comments again because I want to make sure we award the people that have been hanging out. In the comments, are we giving away 1 football, 1 helmet?
Nope. We're giving a helmet and a football to 1 lucky winner.
1 lucky winner. So you're going to win a helmet and a football, and I got the name in my ear. Thank you very much, Taylor. The Sketch Lab. Congratulations to the Sketch Lab. We appreciate you being in the chat. Make sure you guys are following Seth Joyner on all social media platforms as well, X, Twitter, IG, subscribing on YouTube. Also, congratulations to @SketchLab for winning the football and the helmet.
And he or she needs to email me or DM me to one of those platforms in my DMs in order for me to get your address so that we can send you your prize. Because there's been a person or two that's won something earlier this year. They never got in touch with me, so they didn't get anything.
All right. Okay. Well, then what happened to those giveaways?
I'll give them away next year.
All right. Fair enough. It's a good adjustment. It's a good adjustment by Seth. All right. When we return, we're going to ask a question about our man, Howie Roseman. You think about the 2 Super Bowls the Philadelphia Eagles have won. What a run. 2 totally different, by the way, rosters that you could talk about, from winning a Super Bowl 8 years ago to winning a Super Bowl tonight. That's when we return to the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky. The Beer Garden here at Parx Casino, coming for a show, coming to win some money. You can entertain yourself beforehand with a fine stein at the Beer Garden at Parx Casino.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges, from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.
It's happening again. Those missed tackles are starting to stack up. Your friends pleading with players who can't hear them. Sweating it out week after week. But not you. Why? Because whether they score or not, there's always another way to win on the betPARX app. New casino users score up to $1,000 bonus back in their first 24 hours.
At Lehocky, we're neither a pawn nor a hockey team. In fact, I don't even know how to skate.
Cut.
We're the injury law firm that you want fighting for you.
With our vast network of attorneys across the country, we know the playbook on injury law.
It's how Lehocky recovered billions of dollars for more than 100,000 injured and disabled workers.
And we know we can do the same for you.
So give Lehocky a call. No other law firm will fight harder for you.
And you'll never pay a dime until we win.
Oof, stuck paying for that old phone? Don't be. You know, at Verizon, we'll pay off your phone, and you'll get iPhone 16 with Apple Intelligence on us. Now with Genmoji. That's a value of up to $1,600. Only on Verizon.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Stay at Home Home Care. Welcome back to the betPARX post-game show presented by Lehocky from Parx Casino. Marc Farzetta, Derrick Gunn, Ray Didinger, Seth Joyner with you on the heels of the Eagles' 40-22 victory and their second Super Bowl championship. I mentioned the name before we went to break, and that's Howie Roseman. And gentlemen, let's think about this for a second. Think about how deep that 2017-2018 roster was. You talk about losing guys like Darren Sproles. You talk about losing guys, of course, like Jason Peters before that Super Bowl. Halapoulivaati Vaitai was your starting left tackle in that Super Bowl. And, of course, Nick Foles is your Super Bowl MVP, taking over for someone who likely would have been the regular season MVP and now backup quarterback to the Kansas City Chiefs, Carson Wentz. Now think about this roster. Think about the starters on this roster. You had a very deep roster win that first Super Bowl. The majority of your starters healthy for this one, but it was all put together now with a different head coach and a different quarterback by Howie Roseman. You think about the run by Howie Roseman over the last 8 years with 3 Super Bowl appearances, and after, I'm sorry, Eagles fans, to bring this name up, but after the teardown of Chip Kelly, how Howie Roseman has made this team bounce back to its greatest run in franchise history is pretty remarkable.
It really is. It really is. You have to give him a tremendous amount of credit. And, you know, Nick Sirianni never does a press conference without mentioning Howie Roseman a couple of times about the roster that he's built, and rightly so. I mean, we've said it a couple of times today and during this week leading up to this that we really felt that the Eagles had the best roster top to bottom in the league. I felt that through most of the season. I felt it even going into today's game, that the Eagles have the best 53-man roster with a lot of young players and a lot of guys that are under contract that are extended. I mean, Howie has done a really remarkable job of putting the pieces in place right here. And when you think about all the ups and downs of Howie's career here and how many times there have been people that, well, actually, Chip Kelly pretty much did shove him out the door and Jeff Lurie brought him back, but then other people that wanted him gone for this reason or that reason. He has put this team in 3 Super Bowls now won 2 of them. And has established himself around the National Football League as one of the smartest guys in the league in terms of not just being able to handle the salary cap and handle the money, which Seth was talking about a little while ago, but to the point now where he is a really good judge of talent. I mean, if you look around this year, I mean, his first 2 picks are just absolute grand slams. I mean, Quentin Mitchell is a guy that came in and right from day one was a starting cornerback, and you can see he's going to be a starting cornerback here for a good long time, and then swings the deal to trade up in the second round to get Cooper DeJean, knowing people say, what do you go? You already drafted 1 defensive back, why 2? Well, the fact is you had that much need. If the opportunity to go up and get a really elite player like DeJean is in the second round, that was really good use of your draft capital. So, Howie has, Derrick said it earlier today, Howie has learned a lot. He's really, he made mistakes, and he admits that he made mistakes, but he's gotten a lot smarter about stuff, always could handle the money well, but he's become a very good team builder. And that's why we're sitting here talking about a Lombardi trophy tonight.
I would also add that what I said on the pregame show, I have to reiterate now. Kudos to Jeffrey Lurie for having the patience with Howie to allow Howie to grow. When you consider the volume of turnovers GMs in the National Football League, when owners get skittish, when things are not going well, and they want to find that next great, offensive mind, that next great orchestrator of talent. Some teams turn over GMs every 3, 4, 5 years. Not Jeffrey. When you think about the tenure of Howie with this team, from a young guy learning to be a GM. Now, he learned his lesson well under Joe Banner, his predecessor, in terms of how to structure cap, how to coordinate scouting staff, so on and so forth. But it had its inconsistencies for so many years. Through the Chip Kelly era was really bad. It's when it bottomed out. And then Jeffrey could have jettisoned him after that, gave him his title back, and on top of that, gave him a promotion and an additional title. And people are like, what are you doing? He hasn't proven anything. But kudos to Jeffrey Lurie because he saw something in Howard that we on the outside looking in could not see. And wow, think about this, over the last 3 drafts, basically, it has really worked out for this organization.
I go back to, we talk a lot about Zach Ball, we talked about Vic Fangio, hitting on 2 defensive backs in the same draft when this was supposed to be something that Howie Roseman just wasn't able to do. He wasn't able to draft corners. Sidney Jones, whether you talk about going back and getting Nnamdi Asomugha through free agency, this is something that Howie Roseman just did not have an eye for. You won a Super Bowl with Jalen Mills, for instance, the Green Goblin, and Ronald Darby. These weren't guys that exactly were groomed. You had a guy fall late in the draft in Jalen Mills, and they brought him in, and then things worked out to win a Super Bowl. But it was a point of emphasis now to make sure that they corrected the mistakes they made in the past at the cornerback position. And you got 2 guys that look like Pro Bowlers, all pros down the line in Quentin Mitchell and Cooper DeJean.
I think what you have to do, if you really look at the shift in what Howie did, is, when the draft gurus slot these players, they're slotted for a reason because there's a lot that go into it. It's not only what people have seen on film, but it's what they've put out at the combine. It's those interviews that you have, as when teams go into the combine. When you're talking to a player, you can figure out how much he loves the game of football. You can figure out how intelligent he is when you put him up on the board at a split second and ask him to, So when these players are slotted in certain positions, they're slotted for a reason. Over the years, Howie did a lot of, going off the reservation, and drafting guys that, weren't slotted in certain positions. But if you go back to the beginning when he began to take, the year that he took Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis, those guys were picked where they were slotted to be picked, and he didn't deviate. He deviated away from taking Justin Jefferson and took Jalen Reagor when everybody else on the planet knew that Justin Jefferson was the pick. So if you just follow suit and do things the way that it's supposed to be, and you got to also consider the situation. If I'm a GM, I've got to consider my situation. Is my team presently ready to win a Super Bowl and we're missing one piece? And do I go piece hunting so I can bring closure and now we can be able to compete? Or am I in a situation where I'm building my roster and I should be taking the best player available? sometimes at the position I need, sometimes at a position for depth, sometimes for whatever the reason is, you know? So I give him credit for being able to shift and stop going off the ranch and just picking the best player available at that time. This year is one of those situations. A lot of people don't realize, Ray, what other cornerback was picked before Quinyon Mitchell this year?
He was it.
Okay. So if Quinyon Mitchell was the number one cornerback that was on everybody else's list, did Howie go off the ranch? No. That kid fell to him at 9.
Fell to him at 22.
At 22. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Jalen Carter.
Right.
It fell to him at 22 because of all the run that we had on offense and
receivers.
Yes. So now all of a sudden he's sitting there like, I can't believe it. The guy that I so coveted that I didn't think I could get, he's right here. Okay? So now I'm not saying all this to take anything away from Howie, okay? Because he's done a phenomenal job. He has made the shift to looking at talent in a different manner. We always knew that he could be, you know, the guy that could fleece another team out of draft capital. We always knew that he could manipulate the cap and get us to where we needed to get to, particularly, you know, in that transition between trying to get rid of some of those guys from Doug Peterson's regime that were under these heavy contracts, and he jettisoned those guys off the books and everything, and within a year, boom, the team is, you know, competitive again. But that's just how you have to do it, you know, and I give him a lot of credit for making the shift because, listen, the old saying goes, you either change or you die, okay? You either see the error of your ways and you adjust, or you become obsolete in a way. And Howie has rescued himself and brought 3 Super Bowls to this city, 2 of which we've won within the last, 7 years? Okay? You can't do anything but give the guys flowers. He deserves it. He deserves it. Because there's a lot of GMs, you know, and VPs of football around the league that are just fumbling and falling all over themselves, you know, and Howie's making a fool of them all, you know, by moving pieces and, you know, and getting stuff off the books. And, hey, listen, he's done a phenomenal job.
And, you know, there are a lot of people around the league that saw the signing of Saquon Barkley and said, oh, you don't pay running backs that kind of money. And look at the impact he had on this team. And the Jalen Carter pick, which everyone now agrees is a great pick. I mean, he's one of the outstanding young defensive linemen in the league. At the time that pick was made, there was a lot of talk about that. Oh, man, that's a gamble. That guy, he's a risky guy. He's in trouble. He has trouble with his weight. He's not well conditioned. I don't know if he's a top 10 pick. And Howie went with the talent and did his homework on the kid. And people said he's a good kid and he'll be fine and he's going to be a really good pro. And he made the pick at 9, and the kid comes in, and now he's probably the anchor of your defensive line for the next 10 years. But now it looks like a really smart pick, and now it looks like an easy pick. But at the time, it was not because there was a real mix of opinion on him. But Howie took the chance, and it's paid off.
Ray mentioned a little while ago about the Eagles' first 2 picks being slam dunks. I want to tape it a little bit farther because we've just only seen snippets of them. But you look at a Will Shipley. He could be Kenny Gainwell's replacement. Gainwell's a free agent. Jalen Hunt, you know, I know he's that hybrid linebacker edge rusher. He could be Josh Sweat's replacement. I mean, look at how he came on. So the bar is already set for what's to come, which is going to allow Howie to make some decisions because he's got these lower rookie contracts, which is going to free up a lot more money, allowing the likes of Josh Sweat and Kenny Gainwell to go elsewhere. Now, you hate to lose them, but you can't keep everybody. But in Howie's mind, he's already thinking about, I can get a bigger piece somewhere that'll make people forget about what we lost real quick.
Mm-hmm. Can I say this right quick? Because, you know, sometimes, you know, I read the chat and I hear the things that people say. And I just want to make this point because it happens not only sometimes in the chat, but it happens on social media. There are points and times in the season, and maybe even beyond the season, where a player isn't playing up to the level that's expected of them. That sometimes an organization doesn't do the job that's expected of them, okay? And when you live in this world of journalism and analysts like we all do, you know, in that moment, you make a judgment. Like the first 4 games, Nakobe Dean stunk.
Mm-hmm.
Was that not the truth?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, am I off base? Okay. So he didn't play well. So the criticism was high. But as the season went along, he got better, and he got better, and he got better. And it's okay to shift your focus and see what's right before your eyes and see what's real and give that guy credit, okay? Jalen Hurts, he's had some times throughout this year that he left us all kind of scratching our heads a little bit, you know? I think me more than most, I've always advocated for him, you know? Same thing with Sirianni. Sirianni was an absolute mess leading into week 6, you know? He almost lost us the Browns game with some of the decisions that he made. He's talking up in the stands, and then he brings his kid. But the guy adjusted, and he made the adjustments. So can you people do me a favor? Stop reaching way back in, you know, somebody's comments and bringing things forward on a day like today, and you want to talk about all the negativity. Because when you live in this world that we live in, you're dealing with tweets and articles and videos and things that happen in the moment. And as things begin to change and as they get better, your job is to report on how things are getting better, not to continue to talk about how bad someone is. But I don't know what the mission is. Do you come here with the intent to prove that you're right, to prove that I was wrong, to win an argument? Which one is it? Okay? And it's not to all you guys, because some of you guys come in here and you're genuine Eagles fans and you want the information. But for you guys that are haters that just come in that want to make a point, please go somewhere else. Please go somewhere else. Because we're going to give you fair and equitable journalism right here. We're going to give you fair and equitable analysis right here. When the team is bad, we're going to call them out for it. When the team is good, we're going to give them praise for it. And they're not exclusive. It's a fluid situation. This team started off 2-2, and then they ran off 10 in a row before they lost one. Okay, so while they were 2-2, they deserved the criticism. But the whole time that they were running off 10 in a row, we gave them kudos. Okay, so let's just be real about that. I just want to throw that out there before we end the show today.
Yeah, I hope you heard that, Ray Didinger. Cancel all your burner accounts, mister. I'm not on social media. Anyway, I'm going to ask you guys one more question. Is Jalen Hurts the guy? No, just kidding. I'm going to ask you guys one more question. It's going to end the show. But before we do it, I'm going to make sure we give proper shout-outs to people that deserve them. The question I'm going to ask you, when you look back on this season, obviously Super Bowl champions, but what are you going to remember the most about this season? I'm going to ask you guys that question. But first, this show doesn't happen without the phenomenal talents of the people that are behind the cameras, pushing the buttons, and all that stuff. You've seen Bailey Livesey come out here, our social media coordinator, done a fantastic job throughout the entire season. Rob Parker and his incredible crew did just an unbelievable job throughout this season. Picture what Saquon Barkley did this season for the Eagles and times it by 10. That's how great our crew is here. Mike Bolts, Nate Hall, Jim Hyden, James Hyden, some of you know him as PJ, Sean Kriskowski, I believe, Graham Nolte, Taylor San Miguel, muy bueno, and Carl Starkweather. Phenomenal job to all you guys behind the camera. And Rob Parker, again, thank you guys so much. Can't thank you guys enough. When you think about...
I've been doing this. I've been in this game a long time.
Yes.
And I've known Rob Parker a long time. And the crew he assembled to take care of what we needed for 2024 season is nothing short of incredible. Outstanding group of people, talented group of people, some of the easiest people to work with. The one thing I love about the most is there's no egos. There's no egos. They just roll up their sleeves and get it done. And they were a pleasure to work with, and hopefully we can work with them again next season. Mm-hmm. That is if Seth let me come back next season. I don't know yet. I don't know.
Listen, I don't have to say anything. You know, everyone at Parker Digital, I should say, the whole crew that's sitting over here, you know, Bailey that sat in with us on social media this year, you know, Be Known social media, with Brendan Kamitsky. There's a lot that goes into this, and you guys know how I feel about you. I appreciate you. You guys have been professional all year, and there's no way that we could have endeavored to do this without you guys' professionalism and your contribution to this show. So a lot of times, you know, people watch a show like this and all they see is the 3 or 4 of us sitting up here every week. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that you guys don't see that makes this what it is. And it's been a hell of a first year for us. We will be back next year. No matter what it looks like, we will be back next year. And we're just going to continue to grow. And I want to thank everybody who subscribed, everyone who's here every single week, to make this what it is. Again, it doesn't happen with the people behind the scenes, and it doesn't happen without you guys that tune in each and every week.
When Seth approached me last March, he said, Gunn, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Would you be interested? It took me like a fraction of a second to say yes, because I know the character and the quality of the person who asked me to join this venture. And like I said, I've been in this game over 4 decades, and what was the symbol? See, people don't know, in a lot of ways we were kind of behind the 8 ball because it got started late. But people don't know what Seth was able to assemble, and the people that he surrounded himself with made this thing what it was. The shows weekly were flawless. I can't emphasize enough. I've worked with a lot of production crews. You have glitches all the time, audio glitches, video glitches. Our shows were impeccable, flawless the entire season. So, kudos to Seth for coming up with the idea. More importantly, this group of people right here, if I can ever do anything for you guys, just let me know, because I enjoyed immensely working with you. I love working with this crew.
And before I turn it over to Ray, because we're going to give Ray the honor of having the last word today, I'd be remiss, and I wouldn't be able to get into my condo tonight or go back to my home in Arizona if I didn't thank my wife, because there were plenty of times in this process of trying to build this where little small things, little roadblocks, would happen. And she would always tell me, hey, you want to be in business for yourself? Pull your big boy pants up, and go to work and dig in. And sometimes, you need somebody behind you to believe in you, until you can believe totally 100% in yourself. So I want to thank my wife, Kendra, for, standing behind me, propping me up, when I wanted to just give up and go in a different direction as well.
All right, Ray, we'll give you the final word on this. A Super Bowl season to wrap up.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Now, I've spent how many? 2 with you now?
Yeah.
For all 3, right?
That's true.
Wow.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, unbelievable is a good way of describing it. It was an amazing year. Lots of ups and downs. But I think that's what made it. I think that's what, in the end, makes it great. Is that it wasn't always easy, and there were times during this year where you wondered if this thing was ever going to pull itself together. But once it did, man, it did in fine fashion. And if you ask me my one takeaway for the season, I mean, it really was a great team effort, and Nick Sirianni said that over and over again, and he's right in saying that. It really was a team effort. But the thing that stands out to me was Barkley. I mean, I thought Barkley was just an amazing story and an amazing player. I mean, the reverse hurdle play against Jacksonville, maybe the greatest thing I've ever seen on a football field. I don't think I ever saw anything like that before. I don't think I'll ever see it again. But the way this team rallied around him, the player that he is, the character individual he is, the way he became the emotional core of this team for the season, for a guy to come in here in his first year, after having been a division rival, to walk in and command that kind of respect, universal respect in that room, and become such a leadership force on this team, and be so clearly driven to win a championship, and along the way sacrificing things. The Eric Dickerson record, and the question is, should he go for it or should he not go for it? No, we think you should sit out because it's more important that you rest, because the Super Bowl is what we're really. Well, guess what? We're here today, and he finished the journey. He won the Super Bowl. He's going to get a Super Bowl ring, and I don't think anybody's worried about the individual rushing record. He did everything he could possibly have done this year, and in 1 year, he became a folk hero in this town. And I didn't know him very well before he got here, but after one season, I think he's one of the unique and special athletes we've had in this city, and it's been a pleasure, and I'm thrilled for him to see him actually win a Super Bowl and get that Super Bowl ring. I think it's the best story of the year. I think it's the best story of the year in the NFL, and I'm delighted that it ended with a Super Bowl championship.
Can I just say one more thing real quick? Because I know it's my honor to sit next to this man. We worked together for years at NBC Sports Philadelphia, and it was my honor. I only got to do it twice this season, but it's my honor to sit here, because when you think, it's like sitting next to Seth, when you think you know a lot about the game, you sit next to these two and you realize you learn even more about the game as well. And this is like an NBC reunion. We all work together at some point at NBC together. So this is like former NBC family, current Seth Joyner channel family now.
Yeah, Seth, we got Endgame right after this. All right, anyway.
No, we don't. I'm celebrating. I'm about to go over there, Chicken and Pete's. They got a nice ice cold tequila waiting. Got my name on it.
Fantastic.
Yes,
hey, also, to everyone that viewed the show, watched the show, subscribed to the show, thank you so much for your support throughout this entire season. We are signing off from a Super Bowl championship season with Jalen Hurts as your MVP. Next time we see you, hey, hopefully we'll bump into you on Broad Street at some point, maybe during a parade. Until then.
I miss you guys, man.
Until then, go Birds.
Go Birds.